Hey guys, my name's Savannah. I'm the family pastor here.
And I am back, John Henry, the middle school pastor.
Yeah, this week we are in week 3 of Advent, and we are talking about love.
Ooh, love. So what do we mean by love? That's what we're going to talk about. Because me, I love my wife, I love my son, I also love pizza.
Me too, but not as much as tacos.
And my mother-in-law also makes these sugar cinnamon buns. I had 4 last night, so I love those. Obviously, they're not the same word.
I don't know.
If I told my wife I loved her in the same way that I love pizza, I think that'd kind of be an insult.
I'm not a wife, but I'd probably be mad.
Right. So we got to kind of say, okay, what are we talking about here? So we're kind of talking about this word in the Greek called agape love. And this is kind of based on Jesus' teaching in the life that he lived. And the disciples kind of talking about this and actually kind of creating this term based on his example. So that's pretty cool. And what we're kind of going to walk through is like love is primarily not a feeling. And it's really an action. And a
No
choice we kinda
Hallmark movies here.
Yeah, Jesse talked about that a few weeks ago.
He did.
And so this is kind of seeking to love without anything in return. And even more importantly, the measure of our agape love is how well we love the people we don't like.
Yeah. Yeah, so in the Bible, we see the Bible talk about love all throughout Scripture. One passage that I really love is in Mark 12, verses 30 through 31. So a group of people come to Jesus, and they're kind of trying to trap him a little bit, and they're like, what's the greatest commandment, Jesus? And he says, to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all of your strength. The second is to love your neighbor as yourself. There is no commandment greater than these. And so he answered their question of what is the greatest commandment with 2, which is a little bit confusing, right? Because you're like, okay, well then let's get more clear. Which one is it?
Yeah.
And the answer is both, right? Our love is measured by how much we love God and by how well we love the people in our lives, whether we like them or we don't like them. And it's kind of, it's a cycle, right? The more we love God, the more we can love people. And the more we love people, the more our love of God is reflected. And so it just like builds on each other all the time. So very action oriented. And I think those actions lead to emotions of love and feelings of adoration. But those just aren't what is the most important. It's the action behind the love.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So going into the Christmas season, how are we talking about this?
Yeah. So you are parents and you get to hang out with your kids and you get to teach them what it means to love people. I would say with little kids in the preschool and elementary phase of their lives, they're very black and white thinkers. They don't have the capacity to think abstractly. And so with that, I'd say be really practical and use this season as an opportunity to show love to somebody in your little Iowa. As a family, think through different ways and opportunities that you can do something kind and loving for somebody else and then follow through on it. And bonus tip here, this is a great opportunity for you to tap into some of your kids' gifts and talents and their interests, right? If your kid is like the best colorer in the whole wide world and they can color inside of all the lines, let them color pictures for your neighbors. If your kid is really interested in helping you in the kitchen, then bake something. Or if you don't want to bake with your kid because that's kind of a pain sometimes, make Rice Krispie treats, right? That's an easy thing to do. And give it to somebody who you may love, or maybe you just need to get to know and you want to show an act of love towards them.
Yeah. And a challenge for you to talk to it with your teen is going to be kind of like it talked about with peace is, hey, who are 3 or 4 people in your life that make you feel loved? And then kind of have them write that list. And then also preface like, hey, you don't have to say me. So then they tell like, mom, dad.
Maybe even just say, don't write me, right?
Help them reflect like kind of outside the family circle. So it's just them kind of reflecting in a cool way. And have them also reflect like, why do they make you feel loved? And again, if you're doing this on a napkin, if you're doing this at the kitchen table, this is best. Not like, I'm going to sit you down, I'm going to walk you through all these things. This is our assignment for the week. Make it very casual. And then also here, moving forward to kind of this next step, like, hey, who in your life is hard to love? And if they can't answer that question, who's someone you don't like? Like I've
can be very telling.
Yeah, when we in middle school, when we were like making this concept a little abstract, they're like, "Oh, I love everyone," and then like you also hear some of their conversations, and you're like, "What about this person?" And they're like, "Oh, I can't stand them," and then you're like, "Oh, now let's talk about this," and they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's what it means."
Yeah.
And so then after they kind of maybe know who this person is or all the things, you kind of start to challenge them, present this agape love, and then kind of say, hey, how can you love this person well, even if it's just generally being nice to them
Yep.
or doing something for them or serving them, and then challenging them to that, and then maybe even checking in. And again, like when I talked about with peace, if you are sharing stories of where this has gone well in your life or where it hasn't gone well, it just continues to show that like we're all just trying. We're all pursuing this. And if they see you pursuing it, they're going to want to pursue it as well.
Yeah. And just a really cool practical rule of thumb, if you have teenage boys, they tend to connect better side to side. So like riding in the car together, sitting on the couch next to each other, those type of opportunities are really great for conversation. If you have teenage girls, face to face is where your sweet spot's going to be. That's a general rule of thumb. Your kid may be totally different, and you're going to know that better than we will. But if you're like, I don't know how to connect with this kid, try that.
Yeah, that's great. So that's what we got for this week with love in our Advent story.